In this video, I want to distinguish Rudolf Steiner's path to truth with Goethe's path to truth. To do this, I refer to the original 1894 edition of the Philosophy of Freedom, which includes an introduction or preface called The Goal of Knowledge. Rudolf Steiner wrote two introductions to the Philosophy of Freedom, one for the 1894 original edition and another one for the 1918 revised edition. Steiner spiritualized the Philosophy of Freedom in 1918 with revisions and additions and then republished it to try and help make the book appeal to his new audience of theosophists. The new 1918 spiritualized preface uses the term spirit 16 times. I find the original preface is more helpful in preparing for the study of the book because he wrote it for that purpose only. Steiner shows the difference between his path to truth and Goethe's path to truth in the original introduction. The Goal of Knowledge begins with a verse from Schiller describing two paths, Schiller's inner path to truth and Goethe's outer path to truth. Truth, too, will be sought in our age only in the depths of human nature. Of the following two well-known paths described by Schiller, it is the second that will today be found most useful. We both seek truth, you in outer life, I in the heart within. Each of us are sure to find it. The healthy I can track the Creator in the outer world. The healthy heart mirrors the world within. Goethe seeks truth through the senses by observing the outer world, while Schiller seeks truth within by means of thinking. Schiller was more a philosopher, while Goethe had artistic perception. Here is Brian Gray explaining the difference between Schiller's path and Goethe's.
So what Schiller is actually saying to Goethe is this: I seek truth within the heart, but you seek truth through what you're perceiving. You seek truth in outer life. If you look at a picture, if you look at a painting, a portrait of Goethe, his eyes are huge. This is a man whose senses are completely open to the world, and he loves the world. And he observes the world with his full soul. So one begins to feel that Schiller notices that Goethe looks for truth through his senses by observing the world. Therefore, he finds truth in outer life. Schiller, on the other hand, we find, is a person who retreats into his library, he retreats into his study, he reads histories, and he lives more in his imagination, but he lives really kind of away from the sense world. So Schiller has noticed that Goethe seeks truth through the senses, and he notices that he himself, Schiller, is seeking truth reflected in his heart. And so he's saying both of us are sure to find truth, but you're going to find it in the outer world, I'm going to find it within my heart.
Steiner took the inner path to truth, on the way to freedom, because it is better suited for our age of the free individuality. What makes freedom possible is the intuitive impulse of freedom, which is an experience of inner truth. The next line explains why the inner path is more useful in our age and is the path of the ethical individualist. Truth that comes to us from the outside always brings with it uncertainty. We are only convinced by what appears to each of us inwardly as truth. Outer truth brings uncertainty and doubt, which weakens us. The ethical individualist is a knowing doer who acts out of a conviction that can only be found in inner truth.
So one can say, so a truth comes to us from outside, we hear it on the news, and then we live in this uncertainty. Is it true, is it not true? Yeah. And there are people who say it is, and there are people who say there aren't. So it leaves us in a tremendous feeling of uncertainty. But truth that comes to us from outside, from without, always bears within it the stamp of uncertainty. We want to believe only what appears to each of us inwardly as truth. I reserve the right to form my own sense of truth. I have my own sense of truth. Yeah. And so I am rightly distrustful, or at least open to question. I question and doubt whether something is true, unless it really resides, it has to resound within my heart. Aren't you the same way? Yes.
We are empowered by truth. Only truth can give us certainty in the development of our individual powers. Whoever is tormented by doubts finds his powers weakened. If baffled by a world full of riddles, he can find no goal for his creative activity. Steiner has referred to this passage as the motto of the philosophy of freedom. Truth empowers action. If you want to condense the book down to 3 words, these may be it. Action empowered by truth. This also distinguishes the path in the philosophy of freedom from the path found in anthroposophy. The ethical individualist does not become lost in the riddles of ancient mysteries, mysticism, or the occult. He remains science-minded in the pursuit of lawful connections between things, striving for certainty in knowledge. Goethe appears again in the book in Chapter 2, The Desire for Knowledge, where we find his poetic verse describing human dissatisfaction with what the world gives us. Goethe again appears in the chapter to describe our dissatisfaction with outer truth. Living in the midst of her, yet are we strangers to her. Ceaselessly she speaks to us, yet betrays not her secrets. Chapter 2 describes a feeling for knowledge of the outer world of nature, but this feeling for truth does not clearly grasp the inner essence of nature from within. Then, in the next chapter, Chapter 3, about thinking, the philosophy of freedom begins its inner study of thinking, and the inner essence of nature is grasped in clear and understandable conceptual form. Goethe now completely disappears from the rest of the book, as we go beyond artistic perception to clearly grasp the inner essence of the world in thought. The philosophy of freedom is a deepening of clear scientific knowledge attained by developing our powers of intuition. Then we apply this enhanced thinking to our personal life situations to be able to form goals and be empowered to creatively attain them. If you need a copy of the original edition of The Philosophy of Freedom, I have a free download at philosophyofreedom.com. Take the link in the banner called Easier Edition.